Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. A.a. Ron.
A.a. Ron is here. Welcome back, everyone, for some more SPTV, where it's always a great day not to be in a cult. Okay, so what we're talking about today is something that if I were still in Scientology, this would piss me off to no end. This would really grind my gears. I could use some other words, but we're less than a minute into the stream and YouTube wouldn't really appreciate that. Okay, let me share my screen with you here. Let me do it this way. Okay, Church of Scientology buys Los Angeles creative office property, converted church, sells for $13.5 million. Now, this article comes from a service that is behind a paywall, so I don't have access to the entire article, but I don't need it. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this information. So, by the way, creative office is the name of a developer. It's not like this is creative office does not modify property. It's not a creative property. It's not an office property. It's a creative office property. Creative office purchased this property way back in the day and they renovated it, which is also interesting because that means Scientology just paid full price for a fully renovated building. And I'm going to explain why this would piss me off if I was still in Scientology. Okay, so it says here, an entity related to the Church of Scientology. Let me highlight this. Now owns a creative office property at 4975 West Sunset Boulevard and 1512 North Alexandria Avenue in Los Angeles. Now, I at first thought that these were basically two addresses for the same building. The second address is actually for a building behind this building, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to ignore it. So again, this is behind a paywall, so we don't have access to this entire thing, but we can look up the property here. And this is the website for Creative Office. So let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. This is the building. These are the pictures, fully renovated. I did actually want to zoom in and give a little bit of information about this thing. So HQ Creative Office has transformed a dilapidated former church structure into a high-end and creative office building. The building features 30-foot ceilings, 30-foot ceiling heights, a full kitchen, reworked stained glass windows, mezzanine area overlooking the vast open space. So it really is just a converted church, like an old church property. The property is located in the distinct area between Hollywood and Los Feliz Silver Lake. It is a very short walk up Sunset to the Vermont Metro Station that can take a tenant from the property into downtown easily. Okay, anybody familiar with this area knows Scientology already has a bunch of buildings in this area and has absolutely no need for another one. You can see it really is just a wide open, empty space. Okay, let me show you guys on a map here where this is. Okay, you guys can see here, this is Sunset Boulevard and Alexandria Ave, for those of you not as familiar with the Hollywood area. I'm going to zoom out and show you where this property is in relation to a Scientology property you hear a lot about in the Scientology world, and that's the property at L. Ron Hubbard Way, also called PAC. Okay, so good Lord, it was easier. Okay, so you guys saw over here where the property is. Okay, let's just go 3 blocks over. This property right here is called, this is L. Ron Hubbard Way. You'll hear Scientologists refer to it as PAC, P-A-C. And when you hear Scientologists refer to LA org, oh, stop clicking on stuff. LA org, specifically, they're referring to the Church of Scientology of Los Angeles, which is at the northernmost part of L. Ron Hubbard Way. Sometimes you'll hear Scientologists use the term ASHO. ASHO is the name for this building, American Saint Hill Organization. Stop clicking on stuff. And that is halfway down L. Ron Hubbard Way. Sometimes you'll hear Scientologists refer to AOLA. That is the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles, right here at the bottom of L. Ron Hubbard Way. And sometimes you'll hear people refer to Main Building. This is where the Sea Org members live on L. Ron Hubbard Way. This upside down V-shaped building is called Main Building. And David Miscavige has a residence in this west wing of main building. I know because that's where I used to live as well. All right. So again, 3 blocks over, and you've got this old church building that Scientology has absolutely no use for, and they just dropped $13.5 million on this thing. Now you might go, Aaron, who really gives a good gosh darn diggity damn how the Church of Scientology spends its money? Well, I'm doing this video more for those people who are still in the bubble of Scientology and are likely to respond to this information in a similar way to how I would have responded to this information. Guys, Scientology since 2004 has been in the middle of a massive real estate scheme fundraising strategy that has bankrupted a good portion of Scientologists in the world. This real estate strategy is called the ideal org strategy. And David Miscavige said the reason Scientology isn't growing as fast as it should be growing is Scientology organizations all over the world are basically pieces of shit. And they're ugly and they're not representative of the priceless, life-changing technology of Dianetics and Scientology, and the contradiction between the true value of Scientology and the quality of its premises turn people off when they come into Scientology orgs. And what we need to do in order to expand Scientology around the globe is every org in the world needs a new 50,000 square foot premises. Never mind if you only have 10 or 15 or 20 staff members. What you need is a 50,000 square foot building. And by the way, these buildings can only be purchased with new money. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to take half a step back and go, who really cares about what Scientology's real estate strategy is? What's the big deal? Let me switch my view here. Why is this important? So the reason this would be important to somebody who is still a true Scientology believer is because this has to do with, if you truly understand what's happening here, it has to do with whether David Miscavige is truly trying to grow and expand Scientology. And it has to do with whether Scientology is actually achieving what Scientologists believe is its goal. You guys have heard Scientologists use the phrase clearing the planet. Clearing the planet, without going into all the definitions, is in Scientology, it pretty much means getting at least half the world into Scientology. All Scientologists in the world believe that before L. Ron Hubbard died, he completed, wrote up, left behind, gifted to management what Scientologists call the unreleased upper OT levels. These are OT levels 9 through 15. If you Google Scientology Bridge to Total Freedom, you will see that the chart that exists in Scientology that lays out all of the steps of Scientology's Bridge to Total Freedom, the chart goes up to OT 15. OT are the confidential, super magical levels in Scientology that are supposed to give you back your godlike powers, or at least put you well on your way to that path. Well, the only OT level that has been released so far in the history of Scientology is up to OT 8. OT 9 through 15 have never been released, and Scientologists believe that they're just sitting in a vault waiting to be released once Scientology reaches certain expansion benchmarks around the world. Okay, well, this gets us to our point. All Scientology orgs, before OT 9 and 10 can be released, are supposed to grow to a certain size that Scientology calls the size of Old St. Hill. It's called St. Hill size. And that word comes from the fact that back in the 60s, L. Ron Hubbard's home was in St. Hill Manor in East Grinstead, West Sussex, England. And he ran this organization personally, and this organization grew to be the biggest Scientology organization in the world. And it had certain statistics, certain staff members, certain numbers of Scientology auditing delivered a week, certain numbers of dollars brought in per week. The size of Old St. Hill when L. Ron Hubbard was running it is called St. Hill size. And Scientology management has said every org in the world is supposed to be as big as Old St. Hill was back in its heyday. And once that's accomplished, OT 9 and 10 can be released. Well, what happened around 2004, Miscavige changed the goalposts because no orgs were achieving St. Hill size. And he said, okay, we're going to sort of put St. Hill Size on hold for now. He didn't actually say that. I'm paraphrasing. And he said, instead of focusing on St. Hill Size, we're going to focus on this ideal org strategy. An ideal org strategy, like I said, every org gets a new 50,000 square foot building. You got to either, buy one and renovate one or renovate your current building, whatever. You need a new renovated 50,000 square foot facility to move into. We yank the ribbon on your building. Boom, you're called an ideal org. The strategy was once every org in the world went ideal, OT 9 and 10 could be released. It was sort of implied that once you went ideal, you would then sort of automatically go St. Hill Size because people would just be flooding in the doors. You'd have to, you couldn't beat everybody away with a stick. People would be clamoring to get into Scientology. So Miscavige shifted the goalpost essentially from all orgs St. Hill Size, we released OT 9 and 10, to all orgs ideal, we released OT 9 and 10. And he said that they had contracted with this worldwide architecture firm. I think it's called Gensler. And all the orgs in the world were going to be done within a few years. That was 19 years ago. That was 19 years ago. And worldwide, there's about maybe, 100, 120 physical churches of Scientology in the world, maybe 100. Sometimes I'll say 150, 180, 190. Scientology double counts most of its organizations. Like, if you have an organization in Austin, Texas, they count the day shift and the night shift as two separate organizations. So if you see a list of Scientology orgs, it might look big. But if you remove the duplicates from that list and you just counted actual physical brick and mortar churches of Scientology, it's closer to 100. Guys, we're 19 years into David Miscavige's ideal org fundraising strategy, and half the orgs in the world are still incomplete. Why are they incomplete? Because of Miscavige's insistence that these buildings can only be purchased with new money. Scientology will not dip into the reserves to fund the purchase and renovation of these buildings, unless it's a special project that Miscavige wants done. Now, so I'm being a little long-winded about this, but this video, if we're just talking about the United States Scientologists, this video should actually should absolutely infuriate all Scientologists in Puerto Rico, Philadelphia, New Haven, Battle Creek, Albuquerque, Hawaii, Long Island, and Boston. These are major Scientology centers that for the last 19 years have not been able to raise enough money from the Scientologists in these areas to purchase and renovate their buildings. There just isn't enough Scientologists in these cities and in the world to raise enough money. If you're a Scientologist in any of these cities, you pretty much have all the evidence you need right in front of your eyes right now that there is no OT 9 and 10. Miscavige is lying about OT 9 and 10. He's been lying about it ever since he found out there was no OT 9 and 10. Miscavige finding out that there was no OT 9 and 10 is how Miscavige was able to get rid of Pat BROEKR, who is the one that was supposed to take over Scientology after L. Ron Hubbard died. I won't go into all the details on that. I've done it in other videos. Maybe I'll dig up one of those videos and I'll post a link up above, perhaps. If Miscavige was actually trying to accomplish the aims of Scientology, and if OT 9 and 10 and above really did exist, Scientologists, I ask you, would he allow these ideal orgs to go unfunded, unrenovated, uncompleted for 19 years, while at the same time plunking down tens of millions of dollars for random properties in Los Angeles that Scientology doesn't need? Guys, this building on Sunset Boulevard, what could this building possibly be for Scientology? What is it going to be? An interfaith community meeting center? What is David Miscavige going to do with a big, newly renovated, empty? It's a meeting hall is essentially what this building is. Is it going to be a new headquarters for a social betterment activity, a Narconon, a Criminon, and applied scholastics? These things don't accomplish the aims of Scientology. These things aren't clearing the planet. These things aren't helping orgs go St. Hill Size. These things aren't getting OT 9 and 10 released. Okay. It's going to be a new public relations facility for the Office of Special Affairs to entertain dignitaries. Like, if you're a Scientologist in Puerto Rico, Philadelphia, New Haven, Battle Creek, Albuquerque, Hawaii, Long Island, Boston, you should be furious Half the organizations in Europe haven't completed the ideal org strategy. If the ideal org strategy is what has to be completed in order to release OT 9 and 10, why is Miscavige spending $14 million on a brand new renovated empty building in Los Angeles instead of spending $3, $4, $5 million and finishing the ideal orgs that have been languishing for almost 2 decades? And I realize if you're a Scientologist in these cities or a Scientologist in general, I'm almost joking that you should be furious that Miscavige isn't using the money correctly. What you should really be furious about is that you have been being lied to and deceived for a couple generations now, multiple decades, 40 plus years, about the state of full OT, about the upper unreleased OT levels, about the circumstances of L. Ron Hubbard's death. Like, who gives a shit how Miscavige is spending the money? The real travesty here is that you guys have been scammed and conned and lied to. There's no such thing as the upper OT levels. L. Ron Hubbard never achieved them. He never finished them. He never researched them, which means there's no such thing as full OT, which means, I'm sorry to say, it's kind of, you know, a big thing to expect somebody to swallow in a little YouTube video. The bridge to total freedom is a total lie. I mean, you have to ask yourselves, why do so many OT8s leave Scientology? If the state of OT was everything it's supposed to be, and if the OT levels are everything it's supposed to be, how could you possibly get up the OT levels and leave Scientology? You couldn't. That would be as silly as, you know, being in the Matrix and getting unplugged and, you know, and then asking to be plugged back in. It wouldn't make any sense. So anyway, I don't want to be too long-winded about this, but when you see, like, I'm extrapolating really, really far from just David Miscavige spending $13 million on a building on Sunset Boulevard. But if you're in the bubble, this is how these dots connect. Guys, I got into most of my Scientology experience was in Philadelphia. Philadelphia occupies a tiny little building on 1315 Race Street, right in downtown Philly, across from the convention center. 17 years ago, they purchased the piano building on 11th and Chestnut. It's like a little skyscraper, actually. That was supposed to be the new ideal org building for Philly. And the fact that they were even able to raise $3 or $4 million to buy that building 17 years ago was a miracle. The only way they did it, there actually wasn't enough money in the pockets of Scientologists to do that. A bunch of Scientologists actually got together and took out a personal bank loan. This was not a mortgage. This was not secured by real estate or by the building. A bunch of Scientologists got together and took out a loan and turned that money over to Scientology so that Scientology could buy the building outright in cash. That was 17 years ago. In the last 17 years, they haven't been able to raise enough money to fund the renovations of that building. That building has been sitting vacant, empty, and unused for 17 years. If you're one of the skeleton crew of Scientologists left manning the Philadelphia org, you should be so furious seeing Miscavige drop $14 million on a brand new renovated church building 3 blocks away from the Pac base in LA. He could have taken half that money and funded the renovations for your ideal org, thereby making the goal of releasing OT 9 and 10 that much closer, but he didn't. So the question is, why doesn't he use Scientology's money to finish the ideal org program? It's because the ideal org program is simply a fundraising scam, and it's an excuse to not release OT 9 and 10. And it's a way to blame Scientologists themselves for not being able to release OT 9 and 10 yet, when the real reason is there is no OT 9 and 10. Do you get it? That's the real point of this video. It's not, oh, look, Miscavige isn't good at managing money. It's not, oh, look, there aren't enough Scientologists in the world to fund these buildings. Those things are true. That's not really the point of this video. There is no frickin' OT 9 and 10. And if you're staying in Scientology because you've swallowed those lies, then I think you might want to reconsider how you're spending your time and your money. It's never too late to leave Scientology. Every day is a good day to wake up and leave a cult. Okay. I start to repeat myself if I keep talking for too long. So I'm going to cut it. Let me address some super chats and then we'll wrap this up. Harrison S. Is David Miscavige out in public ever? I would love to get a pic. So these days, I think it's safe to say that David Miscavige is never out in public, maybe unless he's wearing some kind of a disguise. And that is because he doesn't want to get served and he doesn't want to get ambushed by people like me or Nasty Nathaniel or or anybody else who would love to ambush the Scientology's little boss baby, the Keebler King himself, out in public. No, he pretty much flies under the radar at all times. Mark Fisher. Hey, Mark, always good to see you. They bought the whole complex, approximately $5 million in 1975. Yeah, the complex is another term used to refer to all those properties on L. Ron Hubbard Way. That's really interesting, Mark. $5 million for all that. Wow. All right, Brenda Farrow. How do you prevent yourself from getting abducted when they come after you? And when do they stop trying to abduct someone? Why would they want to? Brenda, I think it's been quite a long time since Scientology's tried to abduct somebody. I think you are referring to what has happened sometimes when somebody's trying to escape and they've been, someone will be sent after them to like intercept them at the airport and whatever. Usually the instances that I'm thinking of, they're just basically guilt tripped and tricked into agreeing to come back. Oh, if you come back, it'll all be great. Oh, if you come back, well, things will be different. Oh, you know, kind of like a typical like toxic abusive relationship or something. There have been cases where Scientologists have been held against their will, but those are much more rare. Any Scientologist who's in a public space, if there's some sort of an abduction attempt, all you have to do is just sit down and scream or whatever. Where there's a will, there's a way. It's very easy not to be abducted by Scientology. All right, let's see. Marilyn Honig. Hey, Aaron, Xenu Mike Jr. and I are visiting Chicago soon. Was the Ideal Org opened yet? Marilyn, always good to see you in here. No, the Ideal Org in Chicago still has not opened yet. That's an example of an org that was purchased, was renovated, is done, and they just don't have enough staff members to open the damn building. Imagine that. Thank you, Marilyn, for that. Brenda Farrow, when people write reports on each other for doing wrong, do they stay friends, couples, siblings, etc. with each other? Is this so you won't be friends? Excellent question. The answer is yes. They do stay friends, couples, siblings, etc. Writing a report is not considered retaliation or retribution. Writing a report is actually considered a way to help the person that you're reporting. In Scientology, the way the logic works on this is that by helping putting someone's ethics in, getting someone's ethics in, helping the ethics officer get someone's ethics in, you are helping that person live a more ethical, productive, and survival life. And eventually that person, when they get their ethics handled, should probably be in a frame of mind where they want to come and thank you. Thank you for helping them see the ethics blind spot that they had. So yeah, when you hear people writing reports on each other, that does not mean those relationships are terminated or destroyed. But I've actually, no one's ever asked me that before. That's a good question. Clearwater Chad, thanks Aaron for wearing a black shirt. Remember, Mondays, Clearwater Chad is live painting as a pre-show to SPTV. Well, there you go, everybody. Always good to hear from Clearwater Chad, and check out Clearwater Chad's YouTube channel. I believe it's called Clearwater Chad. Okay. PA Girl 913499. Aaron, Pats or Geno's? You know, I got to be honest, they really are both the same to me. When I worked downtown, there was right on the corner of 13th and Race, there was Race Pizza, and Race Pizza had fantastic cheesesteaks. I would never go down to Pat's and Geno's for cheesesteak because that was driving distance for me. Walking distance was just right on the corner. I've had cheesesteaks from both Pat and Geno's. I'm just being, I don't have a favorite. They're both absolutely fantastic. Thank you for the super chat, PA Girl. Much appreciated. All right, let me see. It looks like I've got everything, you guys. Okay. I do have more coming later today, so stay tuned. Hit that like button if you haven't already. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It does seem to help out the algorithm. All right, everyone, that's all I have on this for now. Oh, wait, I got to hide that comment. It's messing up my mojo. There we go. All right, everybody, that's all I got for now. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right